Which fool doesn't want to belong to a jealous God? Exodus 20, verse 5. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Exodus 34. For thou shalt worship no other Elohim, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Elohim. Oprah Winfrey famously said she didn't want to belong to a jealous God, and others have joined the bandwagon, using that as a reason why the Yahweh of the Bible is not a good God and is not a God to follow. In the verses which I read just now, it does say that Yahweh is a jealous Elohim, and that he visits the iniquities upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate him. I want to clear up something here, because it's all semantics, and it's also to do with modern day interpretation of a word which, in its cultural context, all those thousands of years ago, and even in the English language, has been misappropriated in modern day. The word jealous actually is quite different from the word envious. The two have been used interchangeably and still are being used interchangeably. But in the context of the Bible, when Yahweh calls himself jealous and says that is his name, which obviously we know is not a name for him, it's just a characteristic, it's referring to possessive jealousy, the type of jealousy that occurs between a husband and wife, or wife and husband. In the Hebrew it is kana. The word is relating to suspicion, apprehension, or rivalry which is uneasy through fear, and we know that Yahweh has no fear. But it does relate to apprehension and suspicion of affection. The difference between jealousy and envy is simply jealousy is being protective of that which belongs to you, and envy is having a desire for that which is not rightfully yours. So we see when Yahweh talks of jealousy, he's referring to the jealousy between a husband and a wife. A man should be rightfully jealous for his wife, and a wife for her husband. I've always said if someone isn't jealous over their husband or wife, then that person can't truly really care. We live in a society today where young people find it quite acceptable to be in many extra intimate relationships and don't see anything wrong with that, and yet speak about love and commitment. As long as a person isn't really committed to the other people and they have one that's their favorite, it's okay to, have intimate relationships and sleep around with other people. Well, that's what's been brought to me by young people and also the media. From personal experience, people have related and said to me, so what's wrong with it? A lot of people do it. Well, for the father of the Bible, there's a lot wrong with it, because there is something that if it is sacred, it is intimate, and it should be exclusive. That type of relationship should be exclusive. Sleeping around, going around, having different relationships is not in the divine plan of the Father. Now, many people will turn around and say to you, well, all the patriarchs had many wives. Yes, that was the case, but if we notice as the family of Yahweh progressed, we came down to single relationships. As it came down, and people say, well, that's because of men and tradition. But I would argue that the other type of relationships that existed before, such as the concubinal one and the many wives, was also tradition. Moreover, when those particular patriarchs and men took another woman or a concubine, they were responsible to those people. They did not have their children all over the place. They were financially, emotionally, and spiritually and culturally involved with their wives. Their wives had status, they provided for them, and they didn't take concubines or wives unless they could provide for them, and they were part of the inheritance. However, even in those kind of situations, we notice that the first wife had honor, and often it was a particular wife's children that had the right of hereditary and having priority over inheritance. There was nothing flimsy, casual, or non-committal in the way the patriarchs tended to conduct themselves regarding their spouses. And I know many people are going to have a lot of contention about what I just said. But the Bible isn't PC or politically correct. The Bible is just what it is, and situations are just what they are, and everyone is entitled to have their own opinion. Coming back to the word of jealous, Numbers 5:29, this is the law of jealousies, when a wife goeth aside to another instead of her husband, and is defiled. Romans 11, verse 11. I say then, have they, bracket, Israel, bracket, stumbled that they should fall? Yah forbid. But rather through their fall salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Joel chapter 2 verse 18. Then will Yahweh be jealous for his land and pity his people. And finally, Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 2, for I am jealous over you with holy jealousy, for I have espoused you to one husband. I have to point out also that modern dictionaries do not always correspond with older dictionaries of those in previous centuries, and that is why it's very difficult now to actually convince many people about the true root meaning of many words. So in all these examples, we can see jealousy is linked to a committed, espoused relationship, and that between a man, male, and his wife, woman. I have to stress this, as in the modern context, a husband does not necessarily mean man. As I've said to young people with whom I've had dialogue, if they are comfortable sharing their partner, their fiancé, girlfriend, or wife with someone else, that's good for them, but that isn't good for me, and it definitely isn't in the plan of the Father for his holy family. I also find it interesting that while many people may want to have this open relationship, yet they get very upset when they find out that their so-called partners are cheating on them. And it is the cause for many breakups, many killings, many assaults, and many divorces. So that's quite strange, because it always seems to me a lot of contradiction goes on, as it seems to be it's okay when I say it's okay, and if I permit you, or if it's something I want to do. All through the Bible, Yahweh calls his people and his nation as his espoused, as his bride, as his wife, and that is how he sees the assembly of the Most High. They belong to him in that committed relationship, and he expects his people to be true to that relationship as he is faithful in his. I think it's a wonderful thing to know that our Father was so jealous for his nation and his people that he did not want them to be taken away or to be seduced by Satan and lose their souls and lose their inheritance, to such a point that he was willing to sacrifice his only begotten Son in order to win them back and redeem them for himself and purchase the debt that Satan had over his people, the power of sin and death. That is amazing grace. That is amazing love. So I, for one, am grateful that I belong to and have a jealous Yahweh Elohim.